This is a deserted place in the northern part of the planet, a kingdom of ice plunged in the polar night 4 months per year. Under the scintillating stars, only the polar bears seem to find this land hospitable. Yet it is here, on this pack ice, and in the coldest of all cold places that Franz, Eric and young Léonie live, with their 3 dogs, Yin, Frost and Imiak.
T'as vu comme elle a la joue rouge? Coucou. Oh là là. Oh. Ah. Oh. Coucou. Dis-moi cache-cache. Oui. Tu viens comme ça là? Ouais. Ouais. Oh, alors. Ah. Combien il fait dans ta cabine? Ah bah il fait -3, dis donc, il fait pas si chaud. Ah oui, papa, il est là-bas déjà, papa. On va demander là-haut, d'accord? On va d'abord froid. Allez. Allez, Miak. On ne fout pas dans l'eau.
Tout cassé. La balade s'arrête là. On peut pas aller plus loin.
Mais là, c'est un peu au bord de l'eau.
Là, ça va devenir du ski nautique.
Ouais, pour peu que le chien veuille bien faire le moteur. Hein? Ah ouais, t'as vu? Pas trop s'approcher quand même. Hein?
Tu veux aller te baigner, Léonie? Mais non, elle est froide, Léonie.
Pas de bain aujourd'hui. C'est entre la meringue et les îles flottantes, ce truc. T'as vu l'assiette un peu? Oh, regarde, c'est onctueux ça là. Oh là là.
Il y a dû y avoir vraiment du mauvais temps au large. Hein.
Ouais.
Parce qu'il y a 3 jours, je travaillais sur la banquise qui n'existe plus là. Et à perte de vue, je voyais de la banquise, quoi. Donc il y a des dizaines de kilomètres carrés de banquise qui sont partis. Tout à refaire.
Franz and Eric sailed for 2 years from the northeast to the northwest passage and finally anchored their sailing boat at the end of the world to the east of Spitzberg, as if they had found the ideal place for an ideal life. It is in this small cove in the Bay of Inglefield that they would be able to experience a long polar night, 4 hours by snowmobile from Longyearbyen, a mining town and the closest settlement. It was also here where they had Léonie, a magnificent, unwavering spark of life. But for this long exile they needed supplies and equipment. They decided to take part in the international scientific program Damocles, studying changes in the pack ice.
On est parti de Longyearbyen, donc avec des chiens qu'on connaissait pas.
We set off from Longyearbyen with dogs we didn't know in search of a place without any certainty of finding it.
There's no shelter known of in this region. The sea charts show no anchorage, no haven. Even the seabed is unknown. The Bay of Inglefield itself is uncharted, yet it's 5 kilometers deep. We had set off into the unknown. We didn't know where we would drop anchor.
We weathered a few storms, we stopped in different places. The whole front of the boat was soon covered in ice, which grew and grew, forming beautiful stalactites pointing downwind. It was the sea spray that was freezing. It was the first time that had happened to us. The dogs were outside and weren't too comfortable. I think it took us 5 days to find this anchorage. It was exhilarating because we knew we were leaving with the boat loaded with 1 year of supplies and with 2 dogs. We were totally disorganized with the dogs because we were inexperienced. It was a good start to an adventure, in fact. I wasn't at all worried about setting off into the wilderness. Everyone was talking to me about bears. I hadn't yet seen my first bear, and I wasn't at all worried. I'd read about them, but I thought, people managed to live with them, why couldn't we? Later, I did get a bit scared. At the beginning, I wasn't too comfortable.
On se taille un peu là. Allez. Allez, pas plus près. Allez, pchit.
Oh non, ils sont...
Allez. À boire, pardon. Voilà. Putain, il était pas loin, hein, ce coup.
Vas-y, vas-y.
Ah, putain, il va chercher. Quel trou il y en a eu.
What a fright we had. It built up a lot of stress in me. My stomach was in knots. Each time we went outside, I'd have a pain in my stomach out of fear.
Every Christmas at Spitzberg, a helicopter comes to visit the few isolated inhabitants of the pole. There's often a chaplain and parcels for everyone. When it's pitch dark and you're in the middle of the winter caught in the ice in this great solitude, it's magic to receive gifts from out of the sky. Presents for our adventurers, a small piece of home that's come all this way. Before meeting Eric, France was an art student in Marseille. She was also passionately fond of sailing and had skippered many boats. One night in April 1997, sailing off the coast of Vendée with her crew, she fell overboard in the middle of a storm and remained 5 hours praying and swimming in water at 15 degrees before being rescued. From this miraculous rescue, France has gained great inner strength, which has increased her awareness and encourages her to enjoy every instant as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Eric is specialized in ocean engineering. He's also a passionate wanderer who loves the ocean and the mountains. He's been on expeditions to Africa and the Kerguelen Islands and traveled throughout Mongolia by bicycle. These two keen explorers met and fell in love. They shared storms and the wildest plans. They finally decided to resource themselves in the chosen solitude of their Vagabond caught in the ice.
Tu veux descendre déjà? Attends un petit peu que je renficote mes gants. Et voilà. Allez, on va voir les chiens. Alarguine, on va voir les chiens. Donc la première année, on avait 2 chiens.
The first year we had 2 dogs. Then we realized that a dog is not only an alarm, but it's also a wonderful companion. It's a family of 6 and not a family of 3 and 3 dogs. They're outside and live their own life. But when we go outside, even if we are a bit cold, we see these animals so well adapted to their environment that it teaches us a lesson. And there's a real complicity between us.
Frost is the most fun-loving and the laziest. He isn't afraid of the bears, but he'll wait till the last minute to warn us. He eats a little less than the others. Yin is the friendliest. He's always asking for cuddles. Although he's the strongest, he's the least brave. And he doesn't like the bears at all and hides in his kennel. So when we see him do that, we know we have visitors.
Imiak
is the youngest, and it's he who warns us best against the bears, because as soon as he sees one, he barks. He has a special bark in that case, and it's immediately recognizable.
And there's Vagabond, the boat bought by Eric 10 years ago. A boat specially designed for polar navigation, and which can't be crushed by the ice. Vagabond is also a house with a cozy living room, a larder, and small, chilly bedrooms. Of course, it is a house that only has heating in the wardrobe. But its toilets are the biggest and the most beautiful toilets in the world.
Ça glisse, hein? Ouh, ça glisse. Je prépare le dîner. Ouais, ça va.
Ça gambade. Qu'est-ce que t'as trouvé?
Il faut que j'aille rechercher du lait, moi.
Mais waouh!
Tiens, c'est le dernier truc de lait. Il va falloir aller faire un peu de spéléo dans le parc batterie.
C'est pas une bonne idée.
Bientôt. Oh là là, là, la
Tu veux
vue.
le garder?
Attends. Et puis je me dépêche, je me dépêche. Oh bah oui. Et on y va, regarde ça. De la purée aux épinards. Chaque fois que je lui fais de la purée aux trucs comme ça me donne envie, moi. Les légumes verts. Oh.
C'est top, ça. Ça sent bon, là.
T'as vu? Qu'est-ce qu'il fait, papa? Il va chercher des raisins.
France and Eric organize their strange life on board. Supplies are brought once a year or when they receive visits between March and June. They need cereals, dry foods, and even 100 kilos of chocolate for Eric. Everything is stored in the hold and in the huge freezer. Because the cold outside isn't reliable, it can vary between -30 and -3 degrees in just a few hours.
Bonne nuit, papa. Ouais. Et bonne nuit. Et regarde, tous les chiens, ils font déjà dodo. À ton tour. Ah ben oui. C'est bien que tu la sois déjà. Oh, c'est pas mal, hein. Je vais même te mettre le gros bidon devant. Ah, c'est sûr qu'on n'a pas d'eau. On n'a pas d'eau.
We obviously don't have any water in the boat because water freezes.
Donc, dès qu'on arrive
In winter, we empty the water tanks, otherwise they explode.
Ouais, c'est pour mettre de la glace. Ouais. Donc on va casser de la glace.
So we go out and break ice to melt.
C'est pour avoir de l'eau.
Fetching the water requires an effort. Therefore, water is very precious.
Voilà un peu d'escalade. Et voilà, c'est pas mal là. Comme il y a peu d'eau.
Since there is little water, and we give the dogs croquettes with water, we give them what's left over from washing the dishes.
C'est-à-dire qu'ils ont le menu, ils connaissent le menu du jour.
They know what's on the menu of the day, and we have the luxury of using warm, fresh water, which enables us to avoid using detergent. When we finish washing the dishes, we put the water in a bucket, and it goes into the dogs' croquette tins. They're delighted. One day it's chicken curry, the next day the croquettes have a fish flavor. We also add toothpaste because, after all, they do have foul breath. And it doesn't bother them.
Attends, j'arrive.
Every day, Eric keenly carries out his duties for Damocles. He sinks the sensors into the ice, drills, improvises solutions, mends equipment, and tests new devices. The objective of Damocles is to observe the changes in the ice, to know how the climate of the planet will evolve. The ice melts in summer much faster than expected, so Vagabond, right next to the pole, is a valuable witness. Eric informs the researchers of the thickness, the quality, the density, and the rate of reflection of the ice. He measures its temperature and salinity and observes the marine currents that pass under it. He gathers all this information thanks to probes and radiometers. The data is transmitted to researchers in Paris from Vagabond's computer.
For me, these experiments combine several things I like. They require being outside, and also, they involve subtle, new variations that you discover each and every time. When you report to the researchers concerned by the observations you've made, you also see them discovering things, and they're unable to explain them immediately. And that's fascinating. When I conduct experiments and I can't take the dogs with me because I need the snowmobile to transport equipment, that's when I'm most vulnerable. That's why I really need to be careful about where I set up, and I must make sure I have as much visibility as possible around me. It isn't always easy, but in the end, it's when you're the busiest with the measurements that you're the most vulnerable.
With their large, funny-looking balloon in the sky of the North Pole, France and Eric are recording wind speed, air temperature, and pressure. Not only is information needed about what's going on under the ice, but also far above it.
Ils s'en foutent. C'est un fou complet, toi, hein? Ouais, la science ici, c'est ludique plutôt.
Science here is rather fun, and I'm Eric's minion because, with his characteristic precision, he's fully aware of all the things that can pose problems in the experiments. You need to connect this before doing that, etc. Whereas I simply execute things in the order I'm told.
Ah, j'entends Léonie qui se réveille. Ah, est-ce que j'ai le temps d'aller la chercher avant ou après? Oups, 1510. Allez, on va dire qu'on a le temps. On a le temps, j'y vais vite. Oh. Oups, il va être content, Eric, quand il va plus me voir. Coucou, Minette. Coucou. Coucou. Oh. Ah, t'as fait un gros dodo? Tu sais que t'as dormi très longtemps.
Voilà, ça je garde sur moi.
Je vais lui mettre une main dehors, comme d'hab, comme ça, ça tiendra le rabat. Hop, t'es contente? C'est bien? Voilà.
C'est bien. C'est bien les chiens. C'est bien. Allez. Voilà. C'est bien.
Ouais, après. Regarde ici, là, papa. Tiens, encore un petit coup de ça. Bon, elle... un petit bout d'abricot, là, lui. Regarde.
C'est correct, hein?
Non, c'est un peu mou, comme ça.
Ah, il y a les raisins.
Attends. Voilà.
Tiens.
Ouais.
Comment ça prend, hein? C'est bien les chiens.
Ils ont froid, les chiens. Et regarde, tu vois les miacs? Ils se demandent ce qu'on lui met devant le nez. Oh là là, papa, il l'emmène. Ouh, elle est là. Tu vois un peu? Regarde les pauvres chiens, regarde, il y a un gros courant d'air.
Ça fait rigoler, ça. Bon, maintenant, il faut démonter tout ça. On devrait mettre des cloches comme ça aux ours, on les entendrait arriver. On y va?
From November to February, Vagabond is plunged into polar darkness and isolation. The visits are interrupted. Franz, Eric and Léonie will spend 4 months alone in darkness with only polar bears and the infinite desert of ice surrounding them.
Ah oui. T'aimerais bien patauger comme moi.
Before settling in at Spitzberg, to know more about their new neighbours, Franz and Eric had taken part in a training course on bears. They were far from realising how large the polar bear population was. In the end, they weren't alone on the pack ice. In 5 years, 500 bears crossed their vast garden of ice.
C'est bien, Ignac. C'est bien, les chiens.
Oh, il vient. Oula, je vois bientôt, papa va envoyer un pétard.
On a prêt pour le suivant.
On les embrasserait, ces nounours, tellement ils sont beaux. Hein.
Tu dis pas dans l'angoisse, toi.
Allô? Eh ben, il y en a qui font même le tour du bateau. D'ailleurs, il y a 2 jours, Eric était en balade avec les 3 chiens et moi, je me suis fait réveiller par les pas d'un ours. Il avait vraiment fait le tour du bateau, mis les pattes de devant sur le bateau. Mais bon, une petite gueulante et puis un coup de phare et puis ça les effraie. Donc ça va pas mal quand même. Les futurs croutons. Ouf.
C'est bien.
Bon, allez.
Partir avec de l'eau chaude.
Un peu d'huile. Voilà.
Even during the long winter night, while the bears prowl around the boat, Eric goes out to continue with his experiments. He takes along a survival kit with him. Bangers, a rifle, ammunition, a GPS, food, an emergency kit, an iridium telephone, a survival blanket, and rescue flares. Every day, he shows his qualities as a rigorous, strong-willed, and ingenious man.
C'est le phoque qui voit la mouette et qui la regarde et dit donc j'aimerais bien voler comme toi. Oh. Alors il essaye de se rouler par terre, avec ses petits ailerons, et il n'arrive pas du tout à voler. Alors la mouette elle ricane, elle s'en va. Oh, c'est triste. Ah, alors regarde, il va dans l'eau et il voit un dauphin, il dit tiens mais moi aussi je sais sauter comme ça dans l'eau. Ah super. Et alors là les autres animaux, eh ben ils disent dis donc ce petit phoque, hein, t'as vu il saute vachement bien dans l'eau. pas qui vient.
J'ai rencontré Eric.
I met Eric at the Paris Boat Show in 1999. I found him inspiring, that's for sure. He immediately inspired me, and in fact, it was a bit more than that. It was what emanated from him. He had just come back from Saudi Arabia, handsome and suntanned. I was hypnotized by his gaze. Eric is steadfast, he's strong-willed. You feel he won't give up. I found great gentleness and kindness in his eyes, and I like kind people, so I melted. I fell head over heels in love with him, and he didn't realize it. It was awful.
Dans la partie 2, là, chapitre 1, apprendre à vivre la nuit, de nuit donc. La neige qui tombe doucement nous empêche de discerner, à 11h ce matin, la faible lueur qui caractérise encore le milieu de journée. Son rideau blanc ajoute une sensation de flottement, comme dans la ouate. Tandis que leur machine et Frost, qui fait des boucans dehors là, heureuse de constater que le harnais de Frost finit de confectionner la veille lui va bien, Eric achève de préparer le matériel dans la poulka.
In the end, the beauty won her prince's heart with her charm, her laugh, and a little ocean magic.
I remember saying to myself that it's ideal to expect a baby in a boat because there aren't a whole host of obligations. Taking the car, getting on trains, I don't know, moving about, many other things. Everything's on board. I found that very relaxing. I was happy thinking, I'm preparing things for the best for Léonie. She'll arrive in a serene environment. What's more, I'm at peace. We were very happy on this boat. Vagabond is a real cocoon. It was like in a fairy tale.
A few months later, a little Léonie was born and began her life with her parents on the great white ocean.
I remember that in the end, I felt vulnerable with Léonie because of the responsibility. I gained confidence, but it came in small stages. Each action is important when it's cold. Before being comfortable with her sleeping at 0 or -3 degrees, you have to have slept badly a few nights to realize that it's enough to put her in a combination suit that's much bigger, with a bonnet filled with the hairs of a muskox, because it's very, very warm, and it doesn't have smell. I even made a little tent for her. I remember I didn't have a handbook or anything like that, and besides, it wouldn't have been adapted to our situation, so it was preferable to start from scratch and find solutions. Finally, we didn't ask ourselves a whole lot of questions. I was more intuitive with her. And I believe that intuition between a mother and her child is the best solution. She really looks happy.
Certain nights, for hours, the genie in the lamp seems to have taken over the polar sky. An aurora borealis graciously invades Inglefield with its strange magic.
ça alors.
One night, France and Eric are suddenly woken up by strange cracking sounds. It's 3 a.m. The pack ice is moving under the boat. It seems to want to break up. Vagabond is violently shaken. Eric likened it to having a giant hand grab the mast and shake the boat. 2 jolts followed in succession, each one lasting 30 seconds.
C'est une bonne nuit, tiens.
Sacrée soirée.
Ouais.
Il fait beau là-bas. Pour la température. Donc dehors il fait -10, -4. Attends, si tu me tiens un stylo, je peux pas écrire, tu vois. Et voilà. Il n'y a pas de vent. Il y a plein de nuages. Pas de neige. Puis, allez, on va mettre bonne visibilité. Tiens, après, tu m'aides à tenir la règle, vas-y. Vous avez le hockey, mon lapin? Voilà. France, viens voir.
Alors c'était quoi?
En fait, ce qui s'est passé cette nuit, c'était un tremblement de terre.
Mais il était où ce tremblement de terre? C'est marrant qu'on nous appelle nous.
Et ben parce qu'on est les plus proches.
Ah ouais.
Ils ont dû chercher, c'était une journaliste d'un canard norvégien qui m'appelait d'un institut de sismologie de Norvège.
Ouais.
C'est le plus fort séisme qu'ils ont jamais enregistré en Norvège.
Ouais, et c'était à côté de chez nous. Ah ouais, la vache, un tremblement de terre. Les chiens, ils étaient un peu penauds, hein. Ah ouais?
Ah oui.
Tu vois, tu dormais et il y en avait un peu
Bah,
peur qu'ils se
tranquille.
réveillent. Et nous, moi, je pétais de trouille un peu quand même. J'avais peur que tout s'en aille, que la banquise elle s'en aille.
The key element of our wintering here is the pack ice. On the one hand, because it forms around the boat for months. We stay for 8 or 9 months without moving. And also because we work on it. It's our tool. It's the focus of our research. So the fact of feeling useful is our prime motivation. We're well aware that we're playing the role of witnesses or relays between those focusing on their measurements, their observations, and their research, and those who want to know what is happening, how the bears live, how the pack ice is formed, all the questions that have to be answered so we may know about the planet we live on. This role as a witness is important for us. At any rate, it's important for me.
First light starts on January the 29th. It'll last 17 days. The sun appears, then disappears very quickly behind the moraine. We get 10 more minutes each day until it becomes a ball of fire in the sky. That morning, Franz, Eric and Léonie set off 4 kilometers from the boat to see the sun rise. They position themselves on a vantage point to get a good view of the colors as they return to the pack ice. But instead, Franz and Eric discover that the pack ice has been fractured once again.
Ça bouge là où t'es, on dirait.
Ça bouge, ouais. Il y a des fractures, on voit à travers. Ça fait un potin d'enfer.
With the return of daylight and of the sun, what's terrible is you realize when wintering you completely forget what sunlight is like. And above all, we await it with great eagerness. I didn't think we would experience such emotion. It's funny because it's a gradual process. We know that the sun will appear on the horizon. Then it'll reach our small bay and touch the mast. Then the first rays of sun in the boat are also something we eagerly await because we rediscover the different colors and the glacier. It's extraordinary.
Ça fait longtemps que t'as pas eu le soleil sur le visage, Minette.
The splendor of the pack ice, its perfection and its power captivate Eric. As soon as the weather permits, he takes photos of the landscape. He doesn't claim to be an artist. For him, it's a report, a scientific approach, and the desire to reflect the infinite variations in his environment. Hence these photos he took every minute for 24 hours, and shown in sequence, they present a moving and fascinating canvas of their fragile little world in the middle of the vast polar circle. daylight has come at last. The sun will shed its light over the pole for nearly 6 months. The bears will get closer to look for seals, and the boat will be released from the ice. Vagabond will be able to reclaim its name and regain access to the ocean.
The breaking up of the ice combines a feeling of impatience and nostalgia. When we leave, we almost regret the privileged location of the bay where we feel at home, where life becomes increasingly intense. At the end of July, different animal populations are more frequently seen around the boat. So when we leave, we get the impression of leaving something at its most intense time. That's why we're torn between eagerness to start sailing and regret at not witnessing this.
One thing we're really waiting for is the bears. Because all of a sudden, we don't have just one bear from time to time, but 12 around the boat. It's quite fabulous. It's incredible. We also get the feeling we are experiencing something rather unique, that we are relatively privileged. And since it is unique, we don't want to miss too much of it.
There's something thrilling about leaving this haven of peace and solitude at the end of the world. France and Eric must now take to the sea again. Even though they have chosen to spend the winters caught in the ice for 5 years, it's only natural for them to start sailing again. They will come back after the summer and spend another year there with Léonie. They will return because all 3 of them have something to tell us about our future world. They will return because their role as witnesses and as a relay is capital in this constantly changing world.